Hey guys, it's Lucas, and in this video I'm going to be going over how I'm personally going to be setting up AIO Bot for the Supreme Relief box logo T release on Friday. And just before I show you how I set up my tasks, I'm just going to go over the billing and the proxies tab to make sure that all of us are on the same page. And at the end of this video, I'm just going to give some random tips that you guys may find useful for the drop. So the first thing that you're going to want to do, you're going to want to go to the billing tab, click on add new. This is where you add all your information for the drop. So just keep in mind, guys, that this drop is only going to be in the US, right? So people in the EU, people in Asia, you guys, if you want to take part in this drop, you're going to have to get yourself a reshipper. But also keep in mind that you may have issues with using cards that are not based in the US, so that's something else to keep in mind. So for people in the US that are running, what I suggest you first do is you can click on this, shipping same as billing. We no need to go over these random little things. Just put your first name, your last name, put your address here as well. Your address too is only needed if you have a room number or an apartment number. So if you happen to live in a complex and you have a lot of different apartments, then it would be very useful to actually include this. If you don't, there's a very high chance that your order may get cancelled. So keep in mind, you gotta add your apartment number. Your apartment number can be added in address 1 or address 2, doesn't matter. And if you live in a house, then no need to worry about that. You could just have an address 1 and no need to worry about address 2. For city, just your city. State, please keep in mind, as usual, people in the US, you gotta put your state in 2-letter codes. So if you live in California, it's CA, New York, it's NY, and etc. Zip code as well, make sure you have it right. Country, just select US. For house number, it's not really important for Supreme, but just a general tip for all drops in general, what I usually do is I'll just have my apartment number down here, the same one as my house number. So if I live in apartment 44, then I'll just have house number 44 here. All right. If you don't live in any house, you could just pretty much just put something like 00, for example. And finally, your phone number as well. Put that basic information. Friendly name here is just what you want to call your billing profile. This will not be shown on the Supreme website when you check out, so this is just placed here. If you have a lot of different billing profiles, that helps you knowing which billing profile is, what category based on this. The next thing here is just select your card type, name of card number, expiry month. This is your CVV or CVC number at the back. Your email. Birthday, not really important for this drop, but you could just leave something like 1990. And checkout once per website is just pretty much based on whether you want to use the same profile to check out more than once. For Supreme, they do not allow you to use the same profile to check out more than once. So for each billing profile that you have for Supreme, I just suggest you do this. And then you can click save. And I don't have my billing saved at the moment, but next thing we can go over is the proxies tab. So for the proxies tab, you want to go first to add new. And what you're going to want to do first is to just have a list name for your proxy. So it just could be whatever you want it to be. I could have it as my main normal proxies. And what you want to make sure you do is for Supreme, you want to have 80% of your proxies as normal proxies and 20% of them as monitor proxies. So for normal, so let's say I have 5 proxies. In this case, what I could do is have 4 of them. So I could have 4 of them as normal proxies, for example. These are just some test proxies that I just kind of created just for the sake of this vid. And what you want to make sure you do is you have this enabled. When you enable this, is pretty much you're enabling this proxy list. If it's disabled, then these proxies will not be used for your tasks. Also, you can go down here and you can select Supreme if you want, or since there's really not much releasing at the same time, you can just have all sites as well. Doesn't really matter. And you could do this as well. They use current IP as a proxy. What this will do is it will have one of your tasks that will be assigned your local IP as the current IP, right? As a task proxy for one of your tasks, right? So if you have 5 tasks, right, and you put 4 normal proxies here, and you tick this, then the 5th task will have your local IP as the proxy for that task. And I actually recommend you do that, especially if you're running on your local IP. However, keep in mind if you are running on a server, you cannot select that because it's almost sure that your IP of the server IP is actually banned on Supreme. So that will only work for people that are running on their local IP. So once you select this and you put your 4 proxies here, you could just click on save. And then you could do the same thing here. You can just create a new list and you can put your last monitor proxy. That will be 20% of your proxy. Also name it something like monitor. Also enable it, click on all sites and click on save. So a question that I get often is how many proxies should I run? Well, that first really depends on how many tasks you're running to begin with. So if you're running like 10 tasks, then you have to have at least 10 proxies in your normal list. But you could also have something like 20 proxies or even 30, as long as it's not less than 10, right? And then whatever number you have here, if that's 80%, then you could just have monitors as 20%. So if you're just running like something like 8 or 8 proxies here, then you could just have like 2 monitors. You could always also put more monitors as well. If you're using a residential proxy plan, then you can just create as many proxies as you want. So it's better to have more proxies than just have like too little. But if you're running a DC proxy plan where you have a limited amount of proxies, then yeah, just stick to the whole 80 to 20% if you want. And one final note about the proxy tab as well is that I wouldn't suggest you test your proxies using this proxy tester. You can go to the Fog London proxy tester. I will leave a link to that in the description and you can download that. And once you download the proxy tester, you can actually test your proxies on there. That's a much more reliable proxy tester compared to the MBot tester, which can sometimes have inconsistent readings. So that's a big suggestion of mine. For the sensor harvester, you do not need this for Supreme, so do not worry about this at all. Alright, this is for harvesting cookies for sites that require it, and that's usually for sites such as Adidas, Yeezy Supply, and foot sites. This is the cops tab. This is where the items that you cop will show up. And no need to go over the settings for now. So finally we reached the tasks tab. So now we're going over the tasks tab. So for this you're going to click on add new on Supreme, and then you're going to want to select Supreme US. Remember, this drop is only happening on Supreme US. Even if you live in the EU and you have US proxies ready and you have a US reshipper ready, you still have to select Supreme US as the site. Right, and also for all of you guys, remember Supreme EU is the default start site here. So you want to make sure that you actually go here and select Supreme US. If you don't do that, your tasks will not be able to go through. You will just get stuck. The next thing you have here is the keyword. So you could have something such as relief T, or you could have something such as box logo. We will be posting the different types of keywords that you could use in our Discord guide, but you could just have any of these. They don't really mess with the keywords usually. And you could even have something such as relief, but you do want to make sure that there is actually no item on Supreme that actually has this keyword as well for you to actually use such a non-specific keyword. So in this case, I'll just go for something like relief T. And also please keep in mind that, relief is a word that sometimes is misspelled. So please make sure you spell it correctly. I goes before E. Before I go into, so for negative keywords, what you're gonna want to do, you don't really have to do anything actually. Since this is already like specific enough, there isn't really gonna be any items that release with this keyword, right? Like the relief keyword. So you don't really usually have to worry about this for this drop. For size, remember that you could either use random, so you would actually type random, right? Or you could specify the different sizes that you have. So the sizes that they're gonna have are small, medium, large, and extra large. But you have to be careful. The way you write these sizes has to be specific. So small cannot be written as just S, it has to be written as small. For medium, that's the exact same thing. Large, and then extra large is a bit of a tricky one sometimes. It's X large. If you ever get lost with what keywords or what size format you should use, you can always go onto the site and see different items that are in the same category, like what's the size formatting that they use. And more than often, this is pretty much how you just format your keywords as well. So next we have color. It's a white T, but you never know if they just decide to just name it something else, like a different type of white or whatever. You could type white, really, but I usually just click on something as random, especially since the color is actually something that Supreme will not release beforehand. So you never know if they mess up with the keywords or whatever, but for the most part you should be safe if you have white or random. Shouldn't be really much of a big deal. For this, it's very important as well, the category. Make sure you go to t-shirts. This is where tees are often released. For your billing, you just select your billing. I don't have one at the moment, but make sure you do have a billing. You cannot, if you do not have a billing set up beforehand, and if you do not select a billing, pretty much there's just almost like no point in just running this drop, right? Because you'll just not be able to check out quick enough. You need a billing for this drop. The number of tasks, it just pretty much depends on how many tasks you plan on running. But yeah, I just put one for now, right? So here are my tasks created. Make sure you have this on the logs. So when you run your task, the information here is just going to show up, all right? Also, don't get confused by this. There is only one mode on Supreme at the moment with AIO, and it's just the mobile mode. So no need to worry about that. For your tasks, remember that you have to start 30 seconds before the drop, right? Don't start any earlier, don't start any later. You could start around the 30-second mark, but don't start like 5 minutes ahead of time. Won't really help you. And same thing, like if you start too late, like 5 seconds before the drop, that could also like be a bit of a trouble. Alright, so I paused the video and I went ahead, I just put some proxies into my proxy step so I could show you guys what happens when you click on start. So as I mentioned before, do not get distracted by this. Your task status does not tell you the full picture most of the times. Your task logs do. So if you ever want to know what's wrong with your tasks, is it working right or no, you check this, don't check this. Alright. So what you're going to do here is you're going to click on play, and if you click on start 30 seconds before the drop, what you're supposed to see if your task is doing all right is just like it's waiting for monitor, right? If it's waiting for monitor, it means that the task is waiting for the item to drop. So you can click something. As you guys can see here, the task started searching for a product, and now it is waiting for the monitor, right? What this means is it's searching for the items based on the criteria that you used over here. All right. So if you get waiting for the monitor before the drop, that's very typical because the item has yet to drop, right? So when you start 30 seconds, it's just gonna be like that. And then when the item drops, you're gonna see your logs change, right? It's gonna like the task is just doing its own thing, all right? It's just gonna try to cop the item for you. So one thing to keep in mind, what you're gonna need though before you start your task, right, is you're gonna wanna have your CAPTCHA open. So you wanna make sure that you have your CAPTCHA up and ready, just in case your Supreme task is not able to bypass the CAPTCHA, all right? So what this means is you're gonna wanna click on Open CAPTCHA. And you can sign in as a guest or you can add new. Both work. The only difference is that if you sign up as a guest, that means that you are using your local IP as your proxy, which just means that, you know, when you're solving CAPTCHAs on your local IP. Whereas if you go on add new, then you are using a proxy to solve. You want to make sure that you use an active Gmail that you use on a regular basis. If you have more than just one of those, then you could add both the guest and as add new. But make sure that if you have more than one solver, you may be better off having proxies for the new solvers, just because you don't want your local IP to get banned while solving CAPTCHAs. If you have too many CAPTCHAs being solved on the same IP, there is that risk, so you want to be careful with that. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on guest. All right, and it takes you to the solver box. So you're gonna click on, okay, don't click on disable, right? Click on X. If you click on disable, it may cause some problems for you. You're gonna want to click on Supreme, right? But before you do that, you're gonna want to go on YouTube first, right? That's the important part about guest. And you're gonna want to sign in with your Gmail as you normally do, right? Also, just a note, if you are running on a server, keep in mind, you cannot log in using your IP. It could cause a lot of problems for you. I would not suggest that. So in that case, when you are starting a CAPTCHA, you want to make sure that you have all your CAPTCHAs signed in using the add new rather than guest. But for all the people that are running on their local, you just sign in your Gmail as you normally would. And then what you could do before the drop is even watch some videos, like before the drop in 30 minutes. You don't have to have the videos running during the drop. You can just have them running 30 minutes before the drop. But you know, just keep in mind as well that you wanna use active Gmail, so Gmails that you use on a regular basis. And you know, so before the drop, you could just close the YouTube icon and you just go on Supreme here, and then you just leave the solver open. All right, it's connected here. You can always test your connection as well. It's just connected at the moment. This is normal if this is empty now, because there is no drop right now. There is no task that is asking for CAPTCHAs. All right, but during the drop, if your task was not able to bypass the CAPTCHA, the task will ask you to solve a CAPTCHA. And so, just like any other puzzle, you're just gonna want to select the different pictures based on what they want you to select, and just click submit. If you're not familiar with what a CAPTCHA is, you can read the proxies. You can read the CAPTCHA FAQ in our Discord. You could just Google, you know, what CAPTCHA is. But other than that, I mean, you know, once you have your solver open, along with, and also I just minimized the CAPTCHA just for the sake of this video. Do not minimize the CAPTCHA. You know, it kind of defeats the point of having a CAPTCHA on. You want to make sure that the CAPTCHA is running next to you, the bot, because when the bot is running, when the tasks are running, you can't really do much with the tasks anymore, right? You just have to leave the tasks running. So it's the only important part now would be the solver. So you want to make sure that if the task needs any CAPTCHA solving, then you want to make sure you do that. And you know, some very general tips as well. Do keep in mind that you know, these drops, especially when we're talking about box logos, they can be a bit crazy. This site, there is a very high chance that the Supreme site could crash. What that means is that normally when the site doesn't crash, the items that are as hype as the Relief T, right? These could normally just run out of stock in, we're talking literally like 3-4 seconds. All right, but if the site crashes, then it's going to prolong this entire period. It could be something like, it could take like a minute for the items to run out of stock. But either way, it doesn't matter if it takes 3 seconds or 1 minute. Do not stop your tasks at no cost. So the same way that here it is, it's logged in, and it shows you, you know, waiting for a monitor. You're gonna want to keep it, but of course during the drop it's not gonna be waiting for a monitor. It's just gonna like show you a bunch of errors. And if you see any errors during the drop, please do not stop the task, because if you do, you know, it kind of also defeats the purpose of running a bot. Why are you running a bot if you're just gonna stop your task midway on a release that usually runs out in a couple of seconds, right? So whatever error you get in the logs, do not panic. Do not contact support asking that you need help with what is this error. Don't worry about it during the drop. There's nothing that support can do during the drop. Just wait after the drop and then submit your logs and we can look over them. Most of the time there isn't really much we can do, to be honest. I mean, you know, these kind of drops, they run out of stock very quickly. Most people, regardless of whether you're a beginner or a pro, there's a very high chance that you're gonna end up with nothing, right? So do keep that in mind. You know, do have that bit of a reality check here. And especially if you're starting out, do not go in with that expectation that you're gonna cop you know, anything, right? I mean, it's not meant to be as a discouragement, but I'm just saying here that a lot of times these kind of drops, they end up in disappointment for most people because there's just not enough stock, and you're gonna have to be a bit realistic. Does that mean though that if you're just starting out that you have no chance at all? No, I'm not saying that. On the contrary, you have to run, and you know, on such drops it's really good to practice as well, because you know there are going to be more box logo and more, you know, really hyped item releases in the future. And when you have experience once, then you know next time you're going to be able to perform way better. But you know, for the most part, you know, kind of go into this drop with that expectation that you may end up with nothing, right? It's normal. We've all missed out on box logos. We've all missed out on drops. It happens to all of us. Do not become this sour, negative person in the group complaining, right? We don't need any of that. And yeah, just, you know, just kind of go in there with that positive attitude, with that attitude that you want to learn, that you want to make sure that, you know, you kind of experience this drop, right? And experience it the correct way. If you mess up with anything, it's okay. You know, there are always gonna be lots of drops that you could just kind of like, that could go well, right? So no need to worry about that either. But besides that, you know, there isn't really much else to cover. I guess maybe we could go over like also like the amount of tasks. I mean, I wouldn't recommend you running way too much, just in case like you would require to solve some captchas. So you could have something like 5, 10, 15, maybe even 20. I mean, you could even have more, to be honest, but it's up to you. It's up to your experience and all that. But you know, just because you have more tasks doesn't always necessarily mean that, you know, you have a higher chance of copying. There's a lot of different elements that come into play as well. So just something to keep in mind. But besides that, you know, thanks guys for watching this video, and I hope I was able to benefit you. If you have any questions, just make sure to ask us in Discord, or even if you want in the comment section. And you know, best of luck with the drop, and I hope I see some of you guys cop. Bye.